I'm 18, I can drink. You have to know what drinking entails, how to do it responsibly, how to make sure that you don't abuse that mature aspect of your life if that's the path you want to choose, you know. And so, and then we also teach them how to make traditional tobacco so they don't use tobacco that harms their lungs and their body and all that, so it has no chemicals in it, which is the red willow tobacco. So then, so that's why we do that ceremony. Then if they get married, as I mentioned before, we do a traditional wedding ceremony, and in our tradition, it's people who don't expect gifts from others. They have to be mature enough as a couple to show the community that they're going to be good providers for the other members of the community. So they're the ones that have to make gifts for their guests. They invite 300 guests, they have to make 300 gifts. You know what I mean? So it teaches them about responsibility. So that way it doesn't be, oh, if I invite 300 people, I get 300 gifts. It's the other way around. It's, can they make 300 gifts, you know? So it teaches them how to be modified, I guess, and not to be out of balance and stuff, you know, to teach them how to be responsible. And so that's different. Then when we have a death, you know, in that winter time, we, as an elder, then our responsibility is to give back everything we've learned in our earth walk, you know, and then we have to prepare ourselves for our spirit walk, which is our death. So we have to make sure that we have people that will do the things you do. Like, for example, when Gwen Bear passed away, she left me almost an entire journal of what to do for her funeral. So she must have known she was going. So she wanted all of her sacred objects, and I had to get a long table because she wanted all of her pipes with her, all of her medicines, etc., and all of that, rather than have a mass card. And she didn't use the church, so we had to find another place for her to do that. But she left that. So like for me, I'm preparing for my death, and what I'm doing for myself is I don't want a store-bought casket. I want to make sure that it's one of my people who make me one, which goes back to the earth, so it'll be pine. I don't want the stone ones, you know what I mean, and stuff, because I have to give myself back to our Earth Mother. That's our tradition. She sustained me 67 years and hopefully more, so I have to give myself back to the earth. So and traditionally, that's how we buried our people before Christianity. Even in the beginning of Christianity, my grandfather was the one who made pine boxes, and then they would have wooden crosses. And so, say this space here is the cemetery, and there's the church. So everybody would be buried that died this year in this row, then the next year, you know, and so it would go, I forget how many years. And then when all the wooden crosses are here, then they'd go back to this one, because by then, those ones have went back together. But when we started to believe that you didn't want, you know, when we started to bring different caskets and different markings, then we're leaving that space that can't be used ever again. So we shouldn't be owning land when we're not really using it. You know what I mean, and stuff. So that's the difference and stuff. So it's really hard for us now to come back to those traditions, because we have generations of our own people that want the fancy casket, the big marker that's going to be there forever, you know. And what should be forever is that's what they did out west with the mourning poles. That would go back 35 years. It would go all the way back. So those tall poles in the west, on the west coast, 30 years, I think, and it would completely go back. So it's like a generation. And then you could use the land again. But well, not the land, but at least, you know, another person can be buried there, and another person can, as opposed to what we're doing now. We're spreading ourselves all the way across. There's, you know, it's not, we're not supposed to live with dead people. And in Tobique First Nation, there's a road, a main road that goes between the cemeteries, you know, and stuff. So because the priest didn't want to have to walk too far for a burial, rather than go to the woods that we used to do, the priest wanted a couple steps away from the service. So we ended that. So that's that ceremony. So we do those ceremonies for each of those phases of life. So that's why 4 is important. So it's not just us going from child, to youth, to adult, to elder, we start preparing for that ancestor time. What are we leaving behind for future generations? So that's what those circle of life and sacred patterns are. Ancient symbol that represents ideas that are important to Aboriginal people. Symbols represent meanings and provide a cultural lens to observe the world around us. So you'll see people with medicine wheel, pouches and stuff, you know what I mean? Or the 4 colors, like I have in the wedding shawl, or like in my medicine pouch and stuff. One represents day and the other one represents night. So one is sun and one is moon. So there's all kinds of different symbolism that we have. And do you want to change the slide for me, please? Yeah. And so again, these teachings help us to look inward, because when they say there's an elder or a child within, in our culture it's the elder within, because we come from those 7 generations. And so therefore, when I try to help people who are lost in their earth walk, I'll say, you come from a long line of elders. Ask one of the elders within you to be that strength for you today. And she goes, I thought there were children in me. I said, no. There's elders within you, because you come from that long line of DNA that you belong to. Call on somebody from the past to give you that strength, and so that's what we do, is we look inward for our own strength. When we worked with our psychiatrist, the province gave us seconded a psychiatrist to work with our Maliseet, mental wellness team. I asked the psychiatrist, when he has our people coming to him for guidance, to remind them that there's a word in my language, it's Dulcin out. Dulcin means my own strength. Out is my path to it, so that our people don't feel that I have to go to a psychiatrist to get me better. Because the psychiatrist doesn't really get you better. You get you better. Psychiatrist just kind of points, guides, holds, you know what I mean? And so that's what we're trying to do, rather than medicate. Granted, sometimes I've met people that I've tried to help that I couldn't, and I had to send them to somebody who could do better than me, because they weren't ready for their spirit journey. They were ready for a medicated journey. So, and I understand that. So, but there's times they don't need that medication. They can find that personal road to their own path. So that way they don't look at us, Imelda's the healer, and that happened one time with an elder of mine. She had Parkinson's, and she was a survivor of breast cancer, and I went to go visit her one time in the community, and she, I could tell she wasn't feeling well. She just kind of looked, so sad and so hurt, that I went to her and I says, you're not feeling well? She goes, no. And I said, if you trust me, I'm going to make you feel better just for a while. I'm not healing you, but I'm just making you feel better if you trust me. She said, oh, whatever, you know what I mean? So I didn't touch her, but I brought my medicine, and I just kind of started to gather all the way around her aura, to clean her aura out. I had her grandchild open up the door for me because I didn't want to touch anything with what was bothering her. I took it outside of her property, and I looked for a tree that was already, a stump or dead. And then I put it all over on the tree, flipped it over like this, and I asked for her pain to go away. And then and they said, what do you do? And I said, I'm asking the tree to help your great-Grammy, and stuff, because she's not feeling good right now. And we can do that with trees. Really? I said, yeah. So by the time I came in, she was cooking me breakfast. So then what ended up happening, she started telling people. Then I started to get these calls. I'm not doing that. I'm not a healer. All I did was kind of nurture her spirit, that's all. I'm not a healer, you know what I mean? So a spirit healer. I'm not a physical healer. I can't cure that cancer. I can't cure all of those other things, but I can make your spirit feel better, and that's all I did, and stuff. So that's what we talk about, is that inside of us, we have that strength. If we think ourselves sick, we'll be sick. If we think ourselves well, so anytime you're feeling like, I was going to tell, Patty, if she would have just closed her eyes, I would have smudged her. I would have told her to picture herself retail, therapy or something, whatever makes her feel good. To go there just for a while, and whatever was making her heavy, with illness, it would have left her, and stuff. But that's important for us to know. We can all do that. It's not just an Aboriginal thing and stuff. And of course, Amir, meaning to look at ourselves as spirit, body, and that 4 that I talked about. You can't just heal the body. Your heart is going to be affected by your sickness. Your mind is going to be affected by your sickness. Your spirit is going to be affected by your sickness. So what doctors do is they heal the body, but they forget what happens to the heart. Like I went through that when I was laid down, and stuff. I had to make sure I had my eagle fan, I had bear fat, I had my muskrat root. I needed these so that I didn't go into that depression, because I was under medication that I wasn't used to. And it was making me see things that I've never seen before, I apologize, I should shut that off. Yeah, must be, yeah. So I'm glad you can edit. Just trying to find out what happened. Whoops. I don't know where it is. Yeah.